Hi, Mike Sikowski here. This is section 1.1 review, short video with some review problems. And the first problem is find the opposites of 4, -3, and absolute value of -2. So see if you can do this on your own and we'll go through this. Okay, the first two are pretty straightforward. Opposite is the number with the opposite sign. Opposite of 4 is -4. Opposite of -3 is 3. Now the opposite of absolute value of -2, the absolute value of -2 is equal to 2. So that means the opposite will be -2. Okay, we'll go through these three problems. 2 plus -6. We start at 2 and we go 6 to the left because we're adding -6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that puts us at -1, 2, 3, 4. So that's our answer using the number line. -3 plus 5. We start at -3 and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. We end up at 2, so that's our answer. In the last problem, -2 minus 3. Now we can also think of this as -2 plus -3. We start at -2 and we end up going 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3, which puts us at -5. And it's a good tool for illustrating positives added to negatives, but it's not very practical for larger numbers, of course. But just to give you an idea in case you're a little rusty on this. Okay, for the next few problems, write these problems as equivalent addition problems and then evaluate. So when you're subtracting a number, you can rewrite it as the addition of its opposite. So give these a try and come back and we'll go through them. So the first problem, we rewrite it as -10 plus -20, which is the opposite of 20. And those two negatives add up to a bigger negative, -30. It's like a $10 debt and a $20 debt makes $30 of debt. The second one, we rewrite as -4 plus -12. Two negatives, again, add up to a bigger negative, -16. Okay, here's another problem for you to try. -5 minus 17. Rewrite it as an addition problem and evaluate. So here we get -5 plus -17 makes -22. Okay, let's now do a few multiply problems. Multiply -2 times -10, multiply -5 times 5, and multiply out -1 cubed. And the rule here is if you have two negatives multiplied or divided, the answer is positive. But if you have one negative, one positive, multiplied or divided, the answer is negative. So our first answer is +20. Second answer is -25. Now see if you can figure out the third problem. So -1 cubed, we take -1 times -1 times -1. The first two -1s multiply out to +1 times the last -1 makes an answer of -1. Okay, next we're gonna do some problems where we evaluate using the absolute value method and show the absolute value method. First problem, -3 plus 12. So the absolute value method for adding a positive to a negative is to take the absolute value of each number. So you get absolute value of -3 is 3, absolute value of 12 is 12. Subtract the absolute values. So the difference of the absolute values is 9. Now, since 12 had the larger absolute value, that's the sign of the answer. So the answer here is +9. It's like a $3 debt added to a $12 paycheck. The paycheck is the bigger amount, so your end result is positive. Now here's two more problems for you to try. -10 plus -30 and -6 minus -2. See if you can do both of those problems using the absolute value method. Okay, our first problem, -10 plus -30. The absolute value method for adding two negatives is take absolute value of each number, add the two absolute values, but the answer is always negative. A negative plus a negative is always a bigger negative. The -10 and -30 is like a $10 debt, and a $30 debt adds up to make $40 in debt. Okay, the final problem, -6 minus a -2. We first have to rewrite this as an equivalent addition problem, which is -6 plus 2. Then we use the absolute value method for adding a negative to a positive. Taking the absolute value of each number, we get 6 and 2. We subtract the absolute values to get 4. But since -6 has the bigger absolute value, our answer is -4. And our final review problem is evaluate absolute value of -3 minus a -10. And what you want to do first is rewrite it as an addition problem and simplify that absolute value. So try and do that and evaluate this, and we'll be right back. So the absolute value of -3 turns into 3, and we change minus a -10 into plus 10, and so we have a very simple problem. 3 plus 10 is 13. Okay, that's all for this short review session, and any more questions, ask in class, or you can post in discussions.